Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist. First and weather here, it is September 9th, 2020, and this is the continental satellite view for the lower 48. And as you can see, we have a very active picture over much of the United States, over the eastern, mid-Atlantic, and in general, the I-95 corridor. You had some very unsettled conditions today. Lots of pretty substantial rain showers moving off the eastern coast, going well into central Virginia, North Carolina, and the eastern portions of the Northeast. You can see with the satellite view from about a couple hours ago, some pretty good convective bursts in some of these isolated pockets, really indicating the pretty steady rain that some areas have seen. And this rain has been focused on areas that have already been seeing a very wet, in fact, record wet past few weeks. In fact, many locations here saw their wettest August on record. So again, very significant rain pattern here, or unsettled pattern here due to a stalled cold front. Now, if we go further west, this right here is all because of that very strong trough that moved in about 24 hours ago. You can actually see the upper level spin right here just to the west of Denver, and this is what's providing those very, very cold temperature anomalies. And as you can see right here, this is where that front is right here. So it's not going to go too far to the east. It's not really going to cross the Mississippi, but places like western Oklahoma, central Oklahoma, parts of Texas, and essentially the entire plains region, and the eastern portions of the Northwest, you are going to be seeing some very below average temperature anomalies for at least one more day before things start to finally moderate to normal. In fact, Denver saw a couple inches of snow actually yesterday, the earliest or the largest temperature drop in history. And in fact, they're coming off a record warm summer too. So to see almost a record early snowfall is essentially just 2020 right here. Very prolific change in the air temperature. And finally, I think arguably the biggest story would be the conditions out west. If we look at California, just rather than these nice pristine white clouds, you're seeing an ugly thick orangish smog just enveloping western portions of Oregon and almost the entire populated area of California. You can see this thick orange smog and all these little individual fires right here. If I start the loop, you can actually kind of see the smoke and all the movement of the fires right here. You can see many wildfires in western Oregon and also California. And in fact, many areas today were clouded in an eerie shade of orange. So definitely not something you see very often. It just goes to show how much has been burning in these areas. In fact, California has now burned 2 million acres of land, which is the highest in recorded history. So really goes to show you just how unprecedented this event is. And if you look at the satellite view again, here is that big upper level low spinning, which provided that snowfall of a couple of or 24 hours earlier. Now here is CNN. Here's a few images of the smog just to give you guys a perspective. This is, for example, I don't know what city this is, San Francisco. You can see the eerie Mars-like smog. If you go through some of the other pictures, you can see just how impressive or scary this was. And so again, this just goes to show how very unusual this is because of that very wide extent of that smog. Now here is the European 46-day ensemble for the tropics. As you can see, the European and as well as some of the other models are hinting at a very, very active next couple of weeks. You already have the National Weather Service hurricane map dotted with lots of invests and watches, and even a couple of tropical systems. And as you can see, the threat from these first initial ones shouldn't be too high for the United States. Those will likely curve out to sea. But after that, the European is still indicating an active tropical region with a few couple of waves right here. So that does need to be watched, especially as we head into the middle of September. And if you recall, I did say in my earlier videos that things were going to be turning very active in the tropics starting about September 10th, and that the risk could be a little higher than normal for areas stretching down from Florida all the way to the Carolinas and Virginia. So just something to watch right now, nothing to get worried about, but just have a heads up that the tropics are turning active once again as we enter the climatological peak of hurricane season. Now here's the GFS experimental model, 250 millibar wind streamlines. I really like this graphic plot because it just gives you a great representation of what is going on in the atmosphere. As you can see, that very strong upper level low, which brought those very cold temperatures, is still spinning strong in the Utah-Colorado border region, providing those cold temperature anomalies. Then you can see a big low off the coast of Oregon, pumping in those northeasterly winds, which is the reason you had that smog essentially clouded over California and Oregon. And right here you can see a pretty strong subtropical jet right here streaming northward, and a pretty strong jet streak in this region right here. Now, if we look here, you can see we do have an area of high pressure right here, and that is what's been basically this area of high pressure, and then there's also moisture streaming from the southwest, has caused that stalled cold front to really allow moisture to be moving westward and really enveloping these areas right here. Now here's the GEFS para ensemble temperature anomalies forecast. As you can see, very good agreement that we are going to see a very wide area of well below average temperature anomalies for September 9th, which is today. And that should slightly moderate as we go into tomorrow, as we can see from this model. If we go to 18Z Thursday, you can see that does moderate and move slightly to the east. And after that, that air mass then sort of weakens very quickly, of course, with the high sun angle. And then you can see by the start of next week, we are back to seasonal temperatures, so things returning to normal. And then after that, the GEFS ensemble does show, interestingly, the computer is a bit laggy here, so bear with me. It does interestingly show a nice little incursion of cold air coming into the eastern part of the country. Again, how true is this? I do not know. But it's definitely something interesting to watch. And many La Nina winters have had cooler than average Septembers, which is interesting to see. And that is what the GEFS para is showing. If we switch to the European model, again, same story, very below average temperatures for the plains regions, Colorado, Wyoming, northwestern Texas, but that air mass does moderate very quickly. And then soon after that, we see a return to seasonable conditions and actually a good pocket of warmth over the western part of the country, something the GFS model also does show. Here's the National Weather Service from Wakefield. It's all a hazards warning map. As you can see, flash flood watches are in effect from I-90 on the I-95 corridor and eastward, because these are the regions that saw 8-10 inches of rain from Isaias. And on top of that, now this very heavy rain, so the soils are very saturated. So that is the reason for these flash flood watches. Rainfall totals over the next 2-3 days will range from 1 to 3, maybe even 4 or 5 inches in isolated locations. So definitely something to be mindful of as we go into the remainder of the week. Here's the National Weather Service rainfall forecast. As you can see, basically right along I-95, a nice corridor of 3 to 5 inches of rain in isolated spots, with a more broad area of 1 to 3 or 4 inches of rain. And this is all due to the fact we have that high right here pushing in those easterly winds with that stalled front right here. And so that's allowing that moisture to really spread eastward and affect these highly populated areas. And now finally, here's the NAM 12 kilometer for the next couple of days. You can see just in general, very unsettled pattern for the mid-Atlantic and lower portions of the Northeast. And this continues all the way until Sunday, when we finally start to see a cold front coming through, which should clean things up a bit for the start of next week. But until then, especially tomorrow, things do look very unsettled for these regions right here. And finally, I do want to close with the sea surface temperature anomalies map. As you can see, we do have a much more organized and substantiated area of La Nina right here. This is not officially a La Nina yet, but it's pretty much in the books now that this winter will have a weak to even moderate La Nina. Before, it was looking like cool to weak La Nina, but the sort of cooling we've seen in the past couple of weeks has really been substantial and impressive. And so this, of course, does have significant implications for our winter. Usually with those stronger La Nina and El Nino events, those two things sort of take control at the stronger the magnitude they are. And that puts other factors like the NAO, QBO, PDO sort of at the back front. And so definitely has some cool implications, and I will be posting videos on winter forecasts and fall forecasts in the next couple weeks or few weeks. So stay tuned for that, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.